Thanks for joining Veiled Mystic today as we examine the Australian cryptid Yowie. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this presentation. Unmasking Australia's legendary Yowie, a mysterious hominid of the outback. For centuries, vivid tales passed down through Aboriginal oral traditions tell of an elusive hairy humanoid beast known as the Yowie lurking in Australia's vast wilderness. While skeptics remain unconvinced by scattered eyewitness accounts over the decades, a legacy of giant footprints, chilling screams piercing the night, and even violent run-ins have cemented the enigmatic Yowie as Australia's most notorious cryptid, the equivalent to North America's Sasquatch and the Himalayan Yeti of Asia. The enduring mysteries surrounding this supposedly mythical man-ape fuels cryptozoological curiosity worldwide while raising profound questions for evolutionary biology and anthropology if revealed as reality. By delving into angles covering alleged physiology, Aboriginal roots, habitat range hypotheses, notable sightings timeline, and extended cultural imprint, the cold case of this legendary hominid refracts broader dialogues between humankind and untamed nature itself. Documented physical traits attributed to Yowie encounters. The blanket term Yowie references a large hairy ape-like bipedal humanoid most commonly described as towering well over 7 feet on average. First-hand sighting accounts depict them as immensely muscular, covered head to toe in reddish-brown fur rather than dark black coats attributed to Yeti relatives across Asia. Their facial features reportedly appear quite apish and elongated while sitting atop broad sloping shoulders. Based on numerous eyewitness interviews over the decades, the Australian Yowie exhibits an expansive flattened nose, close-set beady eyes shadowed under a prominent brow ridge, and minimal neck length compared to the immense barrel-shaped torsos. Encounters frequently emphasize unsettling combinations of human and primate-like traits, with mannerisms and behaviors also said to oscillate between disturbingly feral animalism and moments showcasing higher intellect, seemingly calculating responses while observing human interlopers. Reported Yowie height measurements vary widely but usually span between 8 to 10 feet, exponentially greater than average people. Skeptics argue distance misperceptions, optical illusions, or adrenal stress reactions could exaggerate size approximations. However, eyewitnesses consistently highlight key anatomical ratios like disproportionately long upper limbs and short but muscular legs that leave deep impressionable footprints even on firm surfaces. By corroborating numerous independent observations, a reasonably consistent morphological profile emerges of the species as a formidable giant capable easily overpowering humans if provoked. Descriptions often emphasize chaotic displays of aggression like hurling large rocks and logs as intimidation if sensing threats. The creatures reputedly possess tremendous strength, easily ripping thick tree branches for bludgeoning impacts that could critically injure most mammals their relative scale. Beyond physical capacity alone, their imposing stature generates paralyzing dread for most, encountering Australia's folkloric man-beast materializing before eyes suddenly in the wilderness. The historical timeline documented in Aboriginal folklore. While European settlers recorded their own startling incidents first in the late 1700s, rich oral traditions among Indigenous Australians describe giant hairy man-beasts occupying interior woodlands for countless generations prior. In the Aboriginal Dreamtime mythology tradition dating back over 10,000 years, the Yahoo serves repeatedly as archetypal wilderness antagonists in symbolic tales about overcoming struggle. Yahoo, later Anglicanized into Yowie, remains the most common identifier used still today. Some researchers theorize that Aboriginal chronicles encode deeply ancestral memories of Homo erectus lingering on the Australian continent long after spreading into Asia. Mainstream science asserts Homo sapiens arriving roughly 50,000 years ago were the first humans settling Australia, but shrouded prehistorical eras contain many secrets still that find expression through ancient storytelling motifs now being re-evaluated. While native Australian groups generally avoided remote bushland zones reputedly inhabited by Yahoo populations traditionally, 19th century frontier expansion increasingly brought settlers into contact through mission building, logging and cattle ranging. Discovery of perplexing giant humanoid tracks during that period forced public recognition of the phenomena often dismissed previously as localized superstitions. Prominent footprint finds throughout the 20th century renewed serious scientific discussions concerning the cryptid's origins and ties to other reported global man-apes. Recent high-definition trace evidence adds to the enduring mystique that the giant Yowie seems nearly as elusive today as centuries ago when Aboriginal tribes first chronicled their harrowing legends. Selected Yowie sightings showcasing consistent themes. While sparse forms of physical proof exist confirming giant hairy hominids inhabiting Australia's remote woodlands, eyewitness accounts accumulate supporting recurrent anatomical and behavioral themes referenced among veteran Yowie researchers worldwide. Some of the most frequently cited reports showing credible evidence describe ordeals with these reddish-furred giants exhibiting animalistic aggression toward interlopers and entries into territory margins. A disturbing 1977 incident involved experienced bushwalker Alma Tana getting stalked for over an hour by a determined Yowie along a remote trail before narrowly escaping by sprinting to her vehicle while it followed just feet behind in alleged pursuit. The towering creature, fitting classical Yowie physiology, pursued Alma well off paths between thickets no fellow human could navigate easily. Hospitalized later for acute shock trauma, she avoided direct harm but remained adamant through later decades the harrowing ordeal marked no normal wildlife encounter. Another compelling testimony came from Australian logger Eric Knopfel discovering mangled animal remains near his isolated cabin, which local tribes could only attribute to feeding signs from the resident Yowie known to dominate that region. Loud crashes from something massive plowing through timber echoed while Eric gathered deer carcasses mauled by something with extraordinary strength. While tunnel vision paralyzed him initially, survival instincts galvanized fleeing the grisly sight immediately once deafening stomping advanced toward his location scouting the commotion. These selected examples offer just a glimpse into decades of similarly vivid alleged encounters. Some reports present misidentification cases certainly, but cumulative consistency around key anatomical and behavioral themes lends credibility that a rare species of unknown anthropoid exists exhibiting more adaptability occupying Australia than currently accepted by convention. Terrified eyewitnesses prone dismissing paranormal topics outright fiercely attest the giant Yowie's frightening reality after unwelcome chance encounters investigate disturbances where caution advises avoiding. Much remains unknown about their ecologies within Australia's largely uninhabited forests and swamplands. But continued chronicling by hobbyists and Aboriginal trackers keeps the controversial topic simmering for professional analysis. Conjectures speculating Yowie origins and evolution. If Yowies represent a legitimate extant hominid species as global man-ape advocates contend given countless cultural testaments, academic conjecture leans toward ancestral connections linking them to other reported cryptids like Asia's Yeti or Indonesia's orang pendant conceivably. Prominent proponents of the relict hominoid premise argue both Yeti and Yowie lineages trace back to Erectus-era bipedal apes like Gigantopithecus proliferating across southern continents over 2 million years ago but adapting for isolation eventually. From an evolutionary standpoint, populations stranded on Australia could develop dramatically different traits over epochs apart from cousins residing in the Himalayas, for example. Skeptics quickly highlight the dubious lack of supporting paleontological evidence, though, with no confirmed giant primate remains discovered down under matching the Yowie scale. Since multiple mammal groups including diprotodonts and flightless birds grew to enormous sizes there in the absence of human hunter pressure, this casts uncertainty whether hulking ancients like Gigantopithecus ventured so far south at all. Absent tangible fossils leaving fingerprints to definitively twin the creature's lineage, the case remains forced relying purely on eyewitness testimony and analysis of habituation ecology where trace activity recurrently appears. Without specimens available for DNA sequencing to clarify ancestry, the cryptid status clings to Australia's Yowie, neither empirically confirmable yet refusing integrity attacks against volumes witness commentary. For dedicated researchers unconvinced where there's smoke, there must be fire regarding persistent sightings. The lingering riddle keeps investigative creativity burning brightly. Supporting evidence beyond eyewitness testimony alone. While standalone sighting reports alone invite skepticism routinely for most cryptids lacking solid evidence, those convinced of the Yowie's reality also cite significant corroborating material supporting positions that these unidentified hominids occupy remote Australian regions actively. Beyond voluminous plaster casts of colossal footprints left behind, examples include tufts of hair matching eyewitness fur descriptions, tree structures and ground nesting areas suggesting heavy creatures recently taking shelter there, destroyed termite mounds indicating the perpetrator wielding extreme strength, and even odd vocalizations captured matching witnessed vocal behavior. Though these isolated examples offers no definitive conclusions yet, the cumulative case based on a wide mosaic of trace evidence at least sustains foundations for investigating further using more systematic methodologies. Field researchers point out that during early stages, most new species ecosystems got discovered originally through incremental compiling of multiple unfamiliar indirect sign rather than mass encounters. These pioneer naturalists relied on keen observation skills to eventually characterize obscured organisms by meticulously tracking subtle clues left embedding their surroundings. In similar fashion, veteran Yowie investigators anticipate breakthroughs ahead as technology aids compiling documentary traces into more irrefutable profiles, while enhancing survey equipment simultaneously for challenging follow-up field studies. Motion-activated camera traps and drone forest surveillance may eventually provide capturing the Yowie's image indirectly, even if direct gathering physical remains always proves tremendously unlikely for these ultra-elusive phantoms of Australia's wilderness. Primatology weighs in. The Yowie evaluation. While prevailing attitudes in zoology fields remain decidedly skeptical that such enormous unrecognized hominids could inhabit the Australian continent undiscovered, sustained Yowie incidents have attracted interest from pedigree primatology communities over the years, given consistent eyewitness accounts displaying intriguing verisimilitude. Esteemed biological anthropologist and anatomist Professor Mache Henneberg, former long-standing University of Adelaide faculty focused on primate evolution, expressed openness during a rare 2017 interview that conclusive evidence for the Yowie may have already been collected yet awaits proper classification context. Professor Henneberg suggested that with advances in genetic profiling capabilities nowadays, marginally viable tissue or hair fibers previously disregarded as unidentifiable could provide DNA matches, awakening zoological revelations if researchers committed review existing specimens in museum archives more intentionally. With global databases expanding exponentially across known eukaryotic life forms yearly, chances keep improving dramatically that lingering cryptic species outliers will get ensnared into scientific recognition through sophisticated assays. And should genetic confirmation authenticate just one formally recognized Yowie, then Pandora's box opens wide for reconciling its extended family scattered worldwide. Lingering Yowie mysteries that may never fully resolve. If Australia's endemic man-beast fails securing hard verifications ever corroborating its contested reality through incontradictable tangible forms, could cultural traces still offer value beyond factual proofs alone? Perhaps the mythical Yowie's magical essence pervading Australian imagination already demonstrates importance exceeding zoological status for generations, experiencing profound enrichment through its folkloric symbolism reservation. Some feel reconciling origin mysteries matter less than inspirations arising for those powerfully moved. Beyond investigating core questions like whether ancestral genetic branches or evolutionary throwbacks await discovering down under, showing that prehistory still obscures understanding terrestrial complexity, the Yowie's numinous aura permeating artistic mediums transmits meaningful identity constantly renewed for Australian culture itself. Through music, films, literature, and mythology channels, the poignant emptiness symbolized by this unsolved riddle in the wilderness speaks volumes, continually beckoning fragmented society returning back toward wholeness intuitively through nature's whispers. For those minds seeking communion again with land-based heritages stolen by modern alienation, Yowies represent not just evolutionary cousins possibly, but equally the untamable primal self-aware that wilderness's seduction remains inescapable despite civilized illusion. Like Bigfoot and Yeti analogues for their home cultures, Australian Yowies encapsulate that raw majesty of the dreaming landscape, holding septic records pleading for remembrance still. Future generations may yet glimpse answers if dedication toward environmental healing guides curiosity respectfully into those remaining frontiers scarcely known. But regardless when or whether the central mystery gets solved, its undefinable magnitude continues inspiring imagination beyond constraints of fact alone.